Tene tatanda ngadu dele hyuju ta tene ta tejisu trin tezi ngaran chisu gonto hyugin la tene ta tejisu sonde dojin chungto mandembe kapsula debata mugi jebata tene tambe chusembe kapsula sonchun chodo senji ne senaro chi tene hyuju teta tene tanda jerdo tanda chuntin dela pe makanga tono yabo na tene pe kalchembo na tene nangdu del pe gavuchong na tige mahompa la chinamba gomnyamne la pento yabo ongre sambe rewat manong chogi.
Good morning, everyone. And first of all, I'd like to apologize for being a few minutes late this morning. And then we will recite the Vajradhara lineage prayer. And as you recite it, please have great faith and devotion. And then as you listen to the teachings, please have the motivation of bodhicitta. So in this Dharma teaching that we've had, you all have been really interested. You have really considered it very important, and I'm delighted to see that. And I have the hope and the prayer that in the future, this will really help your meditation and practice.
Tene ta tanda kasing kapso jitang te chulu tumta mandawa tenzola mentimba yuare la tinguni chena mentimba yuamare jikwa ndabo yuare tene tumba don mentimbe chulti karirese na tezi kahi tseki chepala tene yungu yuare tenda katene tene hiroga mandipatra tende yungu yuamare la teacher na ta terin na enjong yunu la jomba chonam tani jorsorki manchin yen sei ko checha la mugu mala putu sona ne zepar jeje ta ti tanda tunta mandawa ta tende nengo mandawa yore nengo mandawa yore te yenaya te kashi ta tanda tenda tene galwa kanya yo marela tene kashi yunu la jomba chong ta te te ta mengo sosu ke mengo te zaldu tene chung kapsula tene ying mengo la tene te mountain bandabo tene te mountain na tene te galwandabo yungndo go te tene ranghin ge yunu la ranghin kanga ge tawate jitang ge tumba de kande imba mentimba de kande imba tembe ge cha kande imba mentimbe cha kande imba tenzo yabo mazik ba ne jomba chong nam tani jorsur ki manchin yen sei tene tati nekap ge tsik jorwa chamte dramandri pala ndabo che yunga yen sigre.
Yesterday we talked about the different traditions, the different philosophical schools, the way that they are sometimes compatible, the way they're sometimes seen uncompatible, but how when we actually realize what they mean, they actually are not incompatible. They all come down to the same point. And so it does sometimes seems like there are areas where they're compatible and areas where they are incompatible. And these primarily come down to differences in terminology, differences in words. In actual terms of the meaning, there's nothing that doesn't work. It all works together. And so today we have come to the section on the first full verse on page 10, which reads, "However, it is possible that those with little learning in scriptural traditions do not know some ways of applying conventional terms. It is not that I don't have respect for you, so if you have become irritated, please forgive me." So, of the different philosophical schools with the different terms, they all have different points that they're making. They do have these different points, but in actuality, when we know them, we understand that in terms of the actual meaning, there is no contradictory. But there are those with little learning in scriptural traditions, and so these may be people who've studied some, but their breadth of knowledge is not so great, and they sort of get this idea, there are these instructions from our own lineage, and these are important. When we think, well, there are other instructions from other lineages, and we have to establish how ours are different, and so we talk about, these are contradictory. And so in this way, they talk a lot about how there are differences and things that are compatible and incompatible between the different lineages. But whatever it is, these are the people with little learning in scriptural traditions. So these differences that seem to come up, these are just some ways of applying conventional terms. And so they're just temporary differences that really only deal with how the words and terminology is used. There's actually nothing that doesn't work.
Tene ko checha la mugu mala putu sona ne zepar jeje se ta te kupa mepa tene chenchin ton ton ne shugi yo mare la ta ti ge gomba te tene gomba ti chetawa yendo ta tunta susu gomba ti chetawa yendo mato ne tene norwa chauna tem norwa sangwa ta gomba che gimba te to na tene manurwa te yang ta pa lam te ta ngaranzo suina yo zen gu ge yo pa te ta bu ge Chertu Tatanda Perna Shiroda Nawaton Dode Batabu Yinayandra Sensam Pato Omarunji Batabu Yinayandra Te Yendo Tanda Pedo Tarve Tene Tanda Sachawe Lamri Lohi on the Sepa Yinayandra Nima Kata Sunduk Menga Yinayandra Tene Kaji Baton Dupa Kaji Tanda Tene Tanda Chaja Chimbo Machu Lenchi Chaja Chimbo Yinayandra Tene Tati Te Yendo Tanda Ro Gadimbag Tanda Tene Tingsong Rongre Losalna Yinayandra Tene Te Muguba Main be Junsin de Candidate Senate Jenkin Tone Sungio Mare La Tiniti Lom Corsata Norsa Yorella Lom Norsate Pa Pang Certan Lom Manorwati Niebe Certan Tinitunta Susolaya Tanda Norsa Yobati Manorwe Chacheta Tinitumo Maimbe Mengote Salto Tanto Pache Certola Hubare Mato, Tinite Changing Tone, Yabo Mare, Chenzo Tunta, the Yabo Mandusene, Muguba Mainse, Tangaransoge, Tamengot into Yamlin now capsula, Tene, Tanda Kari Gugi Orisena, Lom Candeli Gugi Orisena, Lom Tunta Mandawa Tinzola, Tene Cheprio Mare, Kangala, Tepato Muguji Gugi Ore. Rete Yinaya, Tene Naranso Lam Telan Rosadu, Tiniti Lam Te Yapo, Nyamsulona, Yapo Remato, Mambo Jiena, Tetsong Gubayo Mare. Perna Naranso, Sani Yendo Telandro Capsula, Tene Tatangone, Tajina. Perna Nomdrutasatoni, Drona, Nomdulando. Yana Tanda Relitigasato Nindrona, Relilando. Yana Basila Sopata, Garila Sopat Hadicena, Telandrona, Tene Pe Tap Devo, Tate, Sosola, Yenting Yard, Penna, Namdundabuji and Jobo, Levere, Tene Relindabuji and Devo, Signalne, Rochopata. Tene that data Chichu. Soso yorela cheshu soso te zaldo tani rona tini chenchen te thon tini reliti yabu mandus relitiga se to te yabu mandus namdutiga se to te yabu mandus tini te yo tini kangala taucha sena tini te ngara kale kharu daje roson cheru je mato yungi yo marela pe te yendo tini ranglam ge yenten te yapo topase Tini te nyamsul lang ne, tini yenje lam tenzo laya te, yenje don telo don lota la sopa maimpa, tini yapo si ne nyamsul lang ne yapo yore sumpeke, ta hyaldan rabu na insari.
Then it continues, it is not that I don't have respect for you, so if you have become irritated, please forgive me. And so it's not being disrespectful here. It's not saying your path is faulty, it's bad, it's wrong. This is not saying that at all. And if we do not realize the intent of all these philosophical schools as it is, then it is possible that there are mistakes we might make. And so this has been said in terms of dispelling those mistakes. But if you realize them as they are, unmistakably, then they are all proper paths. We need to be diligent about them. And so for that reason, whether we're talking about the Great Exposition or the Sutra school, whether we're talking about the mind only in the autonomous school, or whether we're talking about the traditions that spread in Tibet, such as the Sakyapa tradition of the study and explanation of the path and result, the Nyingma explanation of the primordial purity and spontaneous presence, and the Karma Kagyu and Drukya, or the Karma Kagyu and Drupa Kagyu tradition of the unaltered innate Mahamudra, or even if we talk about those what are referred to here as these days some of our great luminaries of the tradition of the mountain of Tushita, that is the people in the Gelugpa lineage. This is not criticizing any of that. This is not being disrespectful of anyone. The reason is that it's not saying this is bad. It's not criticizing them. It's saying there are mistakes that can be made. There are pitfalls that you can make. And so we need to give up the mistakes and avoid the pitfalls. We need to realize the unmistaken path. And so once we do that and we're free of any mistakes and pitfalls, then we can really practice our own particular path. It's not saying, all those other lineages are terrible. They're all wrong and no good. We're not saying that at all. And so when we are actually practicing the Dharma, then when we practice it, how is it that we practice? Well, when we enter a path, we enter the path, but we realize that all the paths are the same. There's no distinction between any of them. We have faith and devotion for all of the paths. But when we actually do the practice, we do the practice of one path well. Otherwise, if we try to do this path and that path and try to do a syncretic sampling of all these different paths, we'll never get anywhere with it. It's like if we are trying to go somewhere. You first decide, how am I going to get there? And then you buy your plane ticket, you buy your train ticket, or you get your bus ticket, or you get your car ready to go. And then if you go there, and then if you do that, you'll get there. And so it'll be easy and do that. Now, each of these different ways of going has their own advantages. Airplanes have the advantage that if you go by airplane, you get there very quickly. But if you go by rail, it's very comfortable. You can lie down in a sleeper car and sleep. It's really quite lovely. And so, each of these has their own features, their own traits, and so they're all good. It's not saying, they're all criticizing any of them. It's not like you buy your plane ticket and then you think, planes are no good. When they crash, you die or something, so let's buy it. I'm going to buy the rail ticket. And then you think about the rail tickets and you think, no, I don't want to go on the rail. It takes too long. Then you keep on flip-flopping back and forth and all this, And you give up. So you have your plane ticket. No, it's no good. Throw it away. Buy the rail ticket. Throw that away. You're spending so much time deciding how is it that you're going to go that you're never going to get where you're actually supposed to go. And so in that way, when we practice, we have to figure out which path is it that we need to go down. And then when we do that, we practice that path. With regards to other paths, we need to have faith in them, we have devotion in them, we need to make sure that we do not have any wrong misconceptions of them, we do not have any bad faith in them, we don't have any wrong views about them. They're all good. But we need to practice the one that we have chosen. And so that is the advice that is being given here.
Tene ta tege ta tanda jitang jumtag tawal tene topa cheper jechul tene susu tawa tena patne tene topa la pembe gechul te lela ta te ta lam de jangna tene ndrebu yapo topa temparela tene te ya tanda te ta nyamlin la zena tene lo dewo jipo 다 야보 중앙가 람 질라 제베 진 용남달라 때네 something 로 대와 다디 다단다 야보제 맹화 사포된 조다 되네 다단다 람지 야보된 조 토발라 때네 베 깔바상고 저기 진지 되는 가란서 제 셈바치보 용야가 전시 또 근데 송하달라 περ나 제시 말아레바 송나 되네 ngan chiwi nje ni rela chen ta nen chimi je zen sa sen se ta tangbo tene shisare sang to ni rela pet embinela pet te chi kawachi tene gamja tene na rela Tini Tinang Dribula Carrier, Tan Chimi Jitsensa, Taishanaya, Pe Dubu Yang Maguba, Kangalji Maguba, Tatindegatini, Gombanyangene, and that's our capsule, then Desi, Nehito Zutruga number 10 Tabata, Namtarton Lojuna Yorella, Tietabu, Njungi Yorella, Tietabu Cherna, Tinitate, Tanda Lam Jilla Tenjuta, Tini Tati Lam La Zendru. 다 까와지 전주 첨보지 톱나요 야보래라 대답은 맞았나요 야보인 봐 다틴데 지보인 봐대 제부 야보인 봐대 송아대 라코 근시지 샤보 메요세 밤이 윤우제 따호 좀보세 다코 근시지 샤보세드 다 강가시바 사자 가주 니마 겔루가 따와 차상 신기 Teni Nintu Sedodan Hawadon Dodeba Lasso Kanga Hinking, Tendrig Harbote, Pe Tumbo, Jangbo, Tene Tain Yapo, Tendrig Tai Harbo sinking the Perna Lo Yembo, Top Chembo, the main Sadella, Nyanga number city, Tendrig Top Chembo Mare, Tene Tati Perna Meji Njopo Rogusajela, Torimbo Jelandroni, Njopo Lepgusajela, Leparella. Del Lepati Naran Topchi, Combanjo, Pe Zubotang. Zubotang Masi Basine, Drogio Arvisin and Drogio Marete. Tayabu Jehani, Tenin draw to do, draw to tella, Tenipe, Lesatana Yabu Levio, Racing King, Nyangok saying Sadella. Coking Hiji Sharbo Mayo, Tendig Metop Chimbota, Njopo Jotum King, Pe Lupo, Zal Chimbot in the Kaya Marete. Tati tenda the carriers and a Chasan, Chulu, Junta, Chasan, Mengo, Tenzo, Hakon King, Tomchi, Hinking, Jeribis in a Mare. Tipe de Ngara, Tene Posar, Top Chembo, Tene Zal Chembo, Tenderibis in a Mare. Yinaya, Ken Hipa Marete, Yinaya, Tene Jip Mengo, Padam, Mipo ni Jip Yunu. Teni Jagan Papi Yuni Sungata, Pekonjinji Johnson, Young, Mengo, Tenzo Yapo, Yal, Tela Yapo, Tusam Fe, Tela Yapo, Nyamlin Sena, Teni, Tati, Tatanda, Jagan Papi Yuni Sung, thank you, taking the Pekonjinji Johnson, Dongato, Mengo, Tenzo, Tazon Bondabuchirella. Tini tig top chi tangara lep gusatna kalime banjopo lep to chumare suamaki.
And so because of the understanding of the different views of the different traditions, the different philosophical schools, we're able to develop realization. So if we really internalize and comprehend the views, so this is discussing how if we internalize the views and internalize and comprehend the views, we can develop realization. And then next it talks about how it is that when we have trained in the path in this way, we attain a really good result about it. It talks about how through doing the practice, then being diligent about the practice, it brings us to the place where we can have a really happy mind, real mental ease and comfort. And so the first of these is contemplating what is how, when we think about the completely pure scriptures, we can develop the mind mentally. So the completely pure scriptures, these are the profound instructions, the instructions on the path. We have gained this path, we have found it, and so this is really extremely fortunate. And because it is so fortunate, we have a lot of happiness that arises within us. It's like Milarepa said in one of his songs. In one of his songs, he said that, "Out of the fear of death I went to the mountains, and now I have come to a place of no fear of death." And so at first Milarepa was thinking, I'm going to die. And so then he thought to him, so then he went off to the mountains to an isolated place. He meditated. he went to a lot of difficulties and hardships and meditated. And what was the result of that? The result is that he came to a place where he had no fear of death. He knew that when he died, there would be no suffering, no pain. In fact, when he did pass away into nirvana, he was able to show a lot of miracles and clairvoyant powers. And so that is what actually happened. This is what's recorded in his life story and biographies. And so this is by able to really follow the path completely with his entire being, and to be able to undergo such difficulties and hardships and be so diligent about it. If we are able to be that diligent and undergo such hardships, that is great, but even if we are not, it is still wonderful. Because we can still come to this result of feeling great happiness within ourselves. Here it reads, I am not the all-knowing youthful one, but through the constant and respectful exertion I am skilled in the way of writing, the excellent stallion of the scriptural tradition of my forefathers. And so here, when it says the all-knowing youthful one, then basically this is saying that he doesn't know everything. He doesn't know all of the instructions of all the lineages, all the Sakya, Nyingma, Kagyu, and Gelugpa instructions. He doesn't know all of the traditions of the disciples of the Buddha in the Great Exposition and the Sutra schools. He doesn't know all about all the autonomous to middle way schools. He doesn't know all about them. He's not what he calls the all-knowing youthful one, or you could also maybe translate very colloquially the Tibetan as being, I'm not the all-knowing young smarty pants. You know, it's not like someone who knows how to do everything, who's really powerful and strong, can do things, I can get anything done, I can do it. It's not like he's that sort of person. For example, if there's someone who needs to go a long way, and you know they're really strong and they're smart and they think they can do anything, and they're really, because they're strong and they're young and strong, they can go a long way and get there. That's not the type of person he is. He doesn't have that sort of body, that sort of strength. But even without that sort of body or strength, if you have a good horse, you get on the horse and you can go. You can get where you're going to go and you get there pretty good. And so this is sort of like a poetic example, even if I'm not using poetic words, I'm sorry. It's a sort of poetic example about, the all-knowing youthful one, the all-knowing smarty pants who is really strong, powerful, knowing, and has a lot of energy about doing it all. Now, in terms of the actual meaning, this means someone who knows all of the traditions, knows all of the instructions of all the different traditions. And so and when we talk about these traditions, we're talking about the ancestral traditions, the traditions of my fathers, my ancestors. And so here, the tradition of the fathers, these are the instructions and forefathers, these are the instructions that come from India, and the instructions that come from Tibet, all of the philosophical texts, all of the instructions, all of the advice. He doesn't know all of them, but he has been able to meet some of the ancestral instructions. This is the horse, the excellent stallion of the scriptural tradition of my forefathers. So here the scriptural tradition, meaning the scriptures, the philosophy, the instructions, and the advice from the schools of Tibet and the different schools in India, by being able to encounter them, and then studying and contemplating them, and then by practicing them, then these instructions are like the stallion that has carried them, and able to arrive at the destination easily.
Tene tatela tazangbo je yonaya tazangbo de be hendang yabo tene rotan yabo gugre mato tene chitang tazangbo de yabo je sinen rona tene gusala lepa jibo yoba kangal mepa tatindi yorela hendang yabo je maje na tene ngaranso matop nesul hibe gone hibe kapsala tene Tamasimbala Hempati, Tuminchu Jinsi, Tumain Panchu, Jose Gracing, Tendenda Yorella, that Tinsan Pernangaranso, Tene, Jopo Legupata, Tap Devugon Legupa, motorcycle Shan, that in this in the drug Yorella, Tinti, Yapo, Shani, Rona, Yaporemato, Yapochi Majana, Tinidab. Tene kongla la jen shor tene tekin dongo da tende mambo jen chenpo yungu yore la teacher na tene yensul kepa ti pami ji yunu de la tene te yapo hendang yapo yeba hendang yapo sena kandi gugu yore sena tojur kujur ji zenju yapo de la zenju gugu yore zenju kandi gugu yore sena zenju tojur ji zenju dong Kujurji zendu se, zendu namba nita gugu yore so.
And so, we're writing the excellent stallion of the scriptural tradition. So when you have an excellent stallion and you're riding the excellent stallion, you have to know how to ride. You have to be good at riding. Otherwise, and if you know how to ride, and you have a good horse, then you can get you to your destination easily, happily, and in a lovely way without any difficulties. But if you do not know how to ride, it is as it is talked about in many treatises that discuss death and impermanence. Riding a horse when you don't know how to ride a horse is one of the causes of untimely death. And so, it's the same way, these days in modern days, you want to get somewhere, you want to go quickly and go fast, you can get a car, you can get a motorcycle, but if you're going to ride a motorcycle, you've got to know how to ride the motorcycle. If you know how to ride the motorcycle, well, then that's fine, it's okay, but if you don't know how to drive and you're going fast, then you crash the motorcycle gets wrecked, you break your head, bust your head, and it's no good. And so you have to know how to ride the motorcycle. So here, knowing how to ride, I'm skilled in the way of riding. You have to know how to ride. You have to be good at riding it. But what is it to mean to be actually good about riding, the stallion of the ancestral scriptures? It means that we need to be diligent. We need to have the constant and respectful exertion. So constant, and this is what I translated last week as continual and inspired exertion. So constant and respectful could also be translated as continual and inspired exertion. So you have to be diligent about it, and the two types of diligent you need are the constant or continual exertion, and the respectful or the inspired exertion.
Tene tateyang zendu tela takjur sena tene tanda tajur kujur nigina ne tambo kujur sena tene pe zendu chembo tene zengang gela troa ose jasi hiwala songwala tati tambi chu drupala pe troa chembo chekon troa chembo de yo yundu tela tene zendu chembo chetoba tene nyem metal Saint many sinking the potat in the song you are. Nemo Tibura, Matipache, Chuyamnice, Tenin Semon Shirani Mantubache, Chuyamnice, that in days in Tusam Senayandra, Tene Yamni, Gombi Yamni Senayandra, Data with Zendu Sepatella, Kujur Zendu Signature. Tojur Zendu Sena, Tene, that Data with the Zendu Jachimpo, Zendu Chimpoji Senayandra. Zendu Chunchuji Sena Yandrati, Ti Tuto Yeba, Tene Nimani, Nimasum, Kahita, Dawache, Dawani, Dawasam, Pe Zenduche, Yante, Leton Rwanda Maimba, Tene Tujundo, Dawache Sonayanda, Ni Sonayanda, Loje Sonayanda, Loni Sonayanda, Tela Toram Nyambo, Dawache, Zendu Leton Mason was there, Zendu Sepatella, Tojur Zendu, Chuyorella. Teacher na tene tanda ta jongja Rolpe Dorje te kon kaseng humangarang namtara durduje choju chongson la tene ngamo gina tene pe ngarampu gu chunchung kala son de tela tene te tudin raboche ta tende te yojire nda somnyonte te maimba tene tanda tene ta jonok jalbo sonam chehu tige lama la tene pe derba chimbo ta tende pe tomjur ngata nuba chimbo ta tende ji jongare la jongare de yina yang kong di ndayan nominga on to micro dayanga on to micro tene tanda nominga on to micro tene ta tanda tomjur ngata on jesu mandong wa che tene tusom nang kapsula tusom na gombe nyamni nang kapsula nyamni nang ne tene kepe ke zemonda bota tutop chebar jinta tende chambarela teacher na tene kon ta ti tojur ke zendusi kujur chi zendusi teme na ta tela ngarchin rabun tre na pe ngarchin tri labo tene noing on the short labo chi no at the draw chi 답변나 대이탕지 농도 성요와래 제 농화의 drache 농거리빠디 졸총 숨긴다고 된대 요아래라 제 농화의 drache 세두다 제 대양롱지 진통도 디질 죽쇼와 디질 마주 롱준다고 자네 되는 디온도 효르게 요아래라 대답이 효르게 난거리빠디 템보지 시톱나 야부 요아래 되는 난거리빠디 졸총 세두베 코라 줄라보 되네 tanda pugu sambanda boje kyulabo nyorlabo ta tende ji yorela tombo tempo je zoma to bache tempo je zoma to na tene che tongtong ge ji jo hyor tene ngaran so tambi chu drubala parchin ro ala so bata tende yungu yorete yinaya tanda choncha Rolpe Dorje kon ta chen den tongtong chimbo ta tende be ziji dong nga dong tom jur chimbo tende chong arete yinayo ti on to ma hyor wa che she ni kong nyamlin tu song gon kepa chong na ta tin song chongcha Rolpe Dorje chungta se pe chungta ke ro ji thank you chepa ji tende chong to ba tene nyamlin ga on to se na nyamlin chepa ji chong ne tene tindayan longche ga on to ma hyor wa ta tende indu tela tojur kujur ji yansul kepe jiduk chong le na tarbar reo se ta ngaran so kandi goge yore se na jiduk chong de ta tanda tambe chu nrup son se du nrup son se ju ya ba je nyamlin se son se du nyamlin se son de pento chong son se du pento chong son se ge ta tende ge tene tarbar jiduk chong le na ta nga che chu go le hyu hyu are de yin sendal nyamlin shiro se ju ma jong aka song gu ba dabo tende mayin ba jiduk chong se ta chu go le hyu song tu som se song te tu som se bin deben dabo hiro chong ma song gombe nyamlin se song te nyamlin se bin deben dabo chong ma song samba de tene ken hi jiduk se kin den dong te per na chong dabo je la tin chong te le tar te tene dubora ma jong ape ya bo chong.
So of these two types of diligence, the constant and the inspired or respectful diligence, the inspired diligence is when you are really strong diligence, it's as Shanti Deva said, diligence is delight in virtue. And so it's when you feel like you're so delighted about doing virtuous things, and so you have a lot of force, a lot of effort, a lot of energy in your practice. You practice day and night. All day long you practice. All night long you practice. No sleeping, you just practice the whole time. And so you're always practicing like this. And so this is the sort of inspired diligence that you have. Whatever you think about, you're always thinking about the Dharma. You're very whether you're doing your studies and contemplation or whether you're doing your meditation practice, with all this you're really inspired, you're doing it with a lot of effort. Now, constant diligence is maybe that strong, or it may not be that strong, but it's just always going like that. It's not like you're doing it, for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, or maybe a month, or then maybe a month, and then you kind of lose it and just relax. It's not like that. It's like you're always just keeping going. Constantly keep going, whether it's for 1 month, whether it's for 2 months, whether it's for a year, 2 years, just constantly going without it ever getting lax in that. That's the constant diligence. And so here, Chankhya Rolpe Dorje. When we think about Chankhya Rolpe Dorje, as I mentioned the other day when I was talking about the life of Chankhya Rolpe Dorje, when I first heard about Chankhya Rolpe Dorje when I was young, I thought that, he's got to be like one of these, Ngakpa, one of these tantric practitioners or something like that. He's got to be something like that. But he wasn't like that, actually. He was actually the Lama for the most powerful of all of the emperors of China, the most meritorious and powerful. And because of that, he had a very influential, powerful, and prosperous position. Yet he was not distracted by the external sensory pleasures. He was not overcome by them. He was not overcome by distraction or by the central pleasures. He was not overcome by all the, and not swayed by all the power and influence that he had. He was still able to do all his study and contemplation, and he was able to do his meditation practice, and through this he was able to become a great scholar and a great meditation master. And so this is the diligence, the inspired diligence and the constant diligence. And so it's always possible that we're going to encounter difficulties or difficult circumstances, and when we meet those, it's always the danger that we are going to get distracted by them. It's as it is said in many of the instruction manuals: the external appearances are too bright, the internal awareness is too weak. And so when we talk about the external appearances being too bright, they're so grand, so powerful, so strong. When we see them, we feel like we just can't help but to go after them. With the internal awareness being too weak, when you say it's too weak, it's not stable, it's not good, and so it's easy to get distracted and go off. It's easy to change our mind and flip-flop back and forth, like a little kid. Like a little kid wanting this, wanting that, going back and forth. And so our mind is unstable, and like that. And so that's because the external appearances are too bright. The internal awareness is too weak. If the internal awareness is too weak and is flopping back and forth, and we see the external things, and it's like we have no choice but to follow after them. But Chankhya Rolpe Dorje was not like that. He was not distracted by the external things. He had all this glory and power and influence, and he was not overcome by it. He was not overwhelmed by it. He was able to study and contemplate. Through that, he became a great scholar. And so you can read about this in the life of Chankhya Rolpe Dorje. You can read about how he wrote many great treatises, how he had such great practice. This is what happened, and it happened because he was not distracted by external things. And so this is what it means in terms of being skilled in riding the horse of the ancestral scriptures. And so I hope to be liberated from this single obstructing passage and obstructing. So being liberated from the single obstructing narrow passage, it's like, what sometimes happens is, we practice and we do something and we think, okay, I've done all this practicing. Have I accomplished anything? I'm doing all this meditation. Is it bringing me a result? Has this helped me? We're wondering. We don't know. And so it's like we've entered the gate of the Dharma, and then, we study and practice. We don't know if our practice is good. And we get to the point of death, and we think, is my practice any good? Oh, no. And so, it's like you enter the gate of the Dharma, you study, you contemplate, and then it's like there's no result that coming from it. It's like I've practiced and there's nothing. And this is like the narrow obstructing passage, the narrow obstructing passage of knowing everything, but not really being able to do anything. And so he's been able to free himself from that passage. So he's freed himself from that and come to like a great open plain of it. And so this is really wonderful.
Tene ta te tardo sedu ta ngaranso je Tombi Chudan, Trepate, Pe, Kalvasangpota, Koya, Tinendayan Longe, Longa on the Major, Dodger Kujur, Zendri Yaponze, Ne, Cuseti Tanya Pachonrella, T. Yentongaranzo in Naya, Pe Kalvasangpoche, Tombi Chugola Yotop, Tinica Tanda, Ten Chipa in Nayandra. Pemi in Nayandra, Panjurton Temba, Chemna Nepa in Nayandra, Rabdu Shumanda, Rabu in Nayandra, Tate, Cantarin, Tombichu, Yamniti, Remji, Zendusi, Tubna, Tinizendusi, Kokam Rabu Yapata, Tinitelatin and Devo topic, Kokam Rabu Yorella, Tinitea, Perna, Ta Chipaton Pemig, Luting on the Senaya, Namba Sanji Bichula, Cheper Meva. Tene tanda perna te cheper me pe junsen te ta hiram himbundo inone tene tanda ndo sungju te la tene hiram himbundo te tene haribu papa kinri ze la twashune tene ta te hiram himbundo te sanji jom din deji shinji la pe ka Tachitan Sanji jumped in the Chikala Mandawat in the Yorella. Uni Hani Sumbuka Kata, Shinji Lapaka Yorella, Nishiran Himboti, Shinji Lapaka in Bicherna, jumped in this someone who he's a thing and Zella, number so say, Tati, Tikal, thing and Zella, number Yoni. Tinitting and Zella, number Yoni, Shinji Lapaka and Toy, Haripu, Tinipapa King is the own to la Tritella, Rich Po, said Tinipapa. Kinrizilla Tavarella. Rich poem, rich pomo, con lala, Hirajaparu Dutsimba, Samuchi Pacheper and Devati, Chitaral Lapersasi. Tanguni Hirajaparu Dutsimbetandati, La Tusomsi, Hirajaparu Dutsimbetante, La Nyamlin Sena, Kandichi Gure, the Chipa in Nayandra, Pemi in Nayandra, Lutin Kandi in Nayandrati, Tenzuki Nyamlin Sipa capsula. Kandi Shikure, Haripu, the Papa Kinrizel, Triarella. Papa Kinrizi, Haripu, Sitati la Linja, Rich poem, Rich pomo, Con Lala Hirab Japaru Dutsimba, Samuchi Bache Brantapati, Dutara number towers at the time, the days in the Yamni Shikure, Tintella, Tin, Luting, Cheper Mapara, Tindi Sumati, Tando in on the Mus, Sumarella, Tiniti Sumazanda Mazi, Tiniti Capsula, that and the Sanji jumped in Doja, Gatemba Sanji jumped in the Jagarato, Poppy to Kotia, Yin, Tombi Chuchun Coloko, Captainala, Chitanka, Jagarga Yola. Tene Chipaton permit Jaten and Chuming, get Chapter Chimbo Cap Hete, Yina number Sanji Pati, Tinitombi Chunamlin Sepal and Danyami, but Harji Kipala, think Tambon about that in the Pashiri Injury, La Teta Vugichana, Think Chipa in Nayanda, Pemi in Nayanda, Tombi Chunamsel Bala Cheprio Marella. Taken the Chimbata, Tene Tatanda, Arab Shumata. Sadalwala, Cheperhero, Mepa Cantaria, Chute Yamnesi to Yaba. Dean Pernanga Kaji Pandabotina, Tinekajipe, Lametsuoti, Marba Lotsawa, Melarepa, Gombopa, some Chambarella, Tiniting Aranso, Lomazo, Chugola Hunkin Soge, Chu Kandi in the Yamlin took Resu, Pendabotina, you are.
So we're really extremely fortunate to be able to to encounter the Dharma. Thrangu Rolpe Dorje was fortunate to meet the Dharma. He was able to not be overcome by all the sensory pleasures, power, and influence. He was able to practice the constant and the inspired diligence, and through this attain the good result. And so we too also have had this incredible fortune. And so whether we are male or whether we are female, whether we are prosperous householders, not so prosperous householders, or monks and nuns, whatever case, we all have this opportunity to practice the Dharma. We all have the opportunity to be diligent about our Dharma practice. We have the opportunity to retain the result of the practice. Like if we think about it in terms of the male and female bodies, in terms of Buddhism, there is no distinction between the male and the female bodies. And this is because it is as taught in the Heart Sutra. So the Heart Sutra is a series of questions and answers between Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara. And so the Buddha taught many different types of sutras. He taught the words of the Buddha come in many different types. There are the actual words of the Buddha, and then there are the blessed words of the Buddha. And the Heart Sutra is the blessed words of the Buddha. The Buddha entered the samadhi of profound illumination, and when he was resting in equipoise within that samadhi, because of the power of his blessings, then Shariputra asked Avalokiteshvara a question. He said, "Oh, son of noble family here meaning Avalokiteshvara." He said, "How should any son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the conduct of profound prajnaparamita practice?" And so he asked, how is it that any son of noble family, that is any man or male, or any daughter of noble family, any female, how is it that they should practice if they want to do the conduct of profound prajnaparamita? And then Avalokiteshvara responded to him, Shariputra, so addressing Shariputra, any son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound conduct of profound prajnaparamita should practice in this way. And so this is how you should practice. It doesn't make much difference. It doesn't make any difference which sex you are, which sort of body you have. Whether you are a son or a daughter of noble family, you can practice in it. And so this is what is actually said in the sutras. Not only is this something that was said in the sutras, the time when the Buddha appeared on the earth in India, and when he turned the wheel of Dharma in India, it was a time and place, it was a very sexist society with great differences between men and women. There was a huge distinction between men and women. But when the Buddha taught how to practice the Dharma, he taught that men and women are equal in terms of practicing the Dharma. This is the first religion probably to teach this. And so whether you have a male body or a female body, there is no distinction in terms of how you can practice the Dharma. And then also when we think about it in terms of being a householder, or whether we think about it in terms of being a monk, or whether we think about it in terms of just being some sort of a hippie. We can all practice the Dharma. If we think about the examples of all the great masters of the Kagyu lineage, who is it that we look at? We look at Marpa, Milarepa, and Gampopa. And so these are all examples of how whatever sort of lifestyle we can lead, we can all practice the Dharma.
Marpaloza Tavaji na Tini Chimba, Tini Kona Jam Yaba, Kona Se Mambo Yaba, Tatinde Yorela, Te Yaba Zomda Mazi, Tini Kon Chimba Imba, Tini Deji Longe Yaba, Tini Panjur Punsum Sopa Yaba, Panjur Punsum Sopa Yeni Konge, Tati Kangba Toza Goyaba. Goyabate, Tati Kapsala, Sanitina, Sanitenzola, Toza Goyaba Janke, Konza Mato, Yomarela, Tindig, Panjur Longeta, Tenindan Longe, Yorete, Yinayan Konge, Tampichu Yamina, Tene Konge, Chu Yamina, Jagarji Yotosan, Tenzo Peki, La Jur, Konrik Yamina, Randan Dro, Tampichu, the Yena Perni, Yandan Dro, Ten Tampichu Sawan Tar, Sambacosetel, Jung Yaparella, Tene, Te Tati Penda, which you think you are. Teni yang ngaranso loma kahi Tumi rabo tate panjolongje kalchimbo mare Tumi sine tab devo sine chu nyamni chi gogre gwan rabo chi yona tin tipen rabo ti malarepa ka na yo arela malarepa kong kawachi retreat shota la pe dropu shota la yo teni tan chowa yung kanjung manjung kan jungjung ge chowa chal teni naza yena yung regu shota na ta tende sine 당보 공리가 단다 동보 두바 잡 갑레나야 딱 데부 고는 좋아잘 되네 냠린 타르슨 갑살라야 딱 데부 나는 콜로마 쫑 디그 랑단 퍼슨 소반도 연단 퍼슨 소반도 다 딘데 정요와레라 딘네 투미 샤달 다 공리 좋아칸 중중다보 딘네 유사용 드라푼다보다 다 딘데 레유네 딘네 땡긴다보 히라 메바다 데부 나네 주념니지 로마졸라용 데타르도나 Tene di jisla, tene tahla gombola, tene je gombo pa sembarela, tene je gombo pa semba indu, tene ta ti je gombo pa te rabdu chunga imba, rabdu chunga ke ten imba, rabdu chunga la rabdu chunga ra, na ne, tene nyamne na, guba druba jab ne, dreban tar sen ne, tene tanda chuge, dreban rabotela, tene tiga, loma. Gamchin jejala sopa sene, tene ranging ke ten pusum sopa jung jung, tala gambu ke densa jab, ta tende nawarela, tene ngaraso loma choya, ta shatal tumi gankin, tejen do rabdu chungwa gankin, tene chimba ke namba panjur tong tembe, namba la chu nyamni nang denkin, kanti inna ya, tene tel chepar hedo yo marela chu nyamni nang tabna, ta kamdar sungwa nanging, tajur kujur chi yansrung kepi, jidu tonglene tarwar rewo sunde ta ngaranso chu drupa imba din rewo yapu chong songa ta kali meba samba je yung togi re songa insar.
So Marpo was a layperson. He had a wife, he had children. Not only that, he had a house, he had fields, he had a lot of work, he had a lot of wealth and things. In fact, he had a 9-story tall house, and in those days, in that place, 9-story house. That was something really pretty amazing, really, really prosperous. And so he was a very prosperous householder, but at the same time as he was still able to practice the Dharma. He went to India, received the instructions, brought them back, he translated them into Tibetan. He practiced himself and accomplished the perfect benefit for himself. Then he was also able to teach the Dharma and accomplish the perfect benefit for others. He was able to come to the ultimate result of his Dharma practice. But then there are some people, who like to have a more simple lifestyle. A simple lifestyle where you don't worry about wealth or prosperity and things. You know that practice is the most important thing. You're going to devote your life to practice and not worry so much about lifestyle. And the example for that is Milarepa. Milarepa is someone who went through a lot of hardship. He went into mountain retreats. He lived in caves, and he just lived on whatever there was to live on. He just sustained himself with whatever it was there was for his clothes. All he wore was a simple piece of cotton. And so first, at the beginning, he did this, he practiced, he attained accomplishment, and he had this very easy way of maintaining himself. And through that, he was able to bring his practice to the ultimate result of that practice. And then he took care of his while he took care of his disciples and students. He also lived in the same way, not caring about anything. In this way, he was able to accomplish the perfect benefit for himself and accomplish the perfect benefit for others. And the way he lived, he sustained himself on just whatever there happened to be. The places he stayed were caves up in mountains. He didn't have any worry about anything else. And so if we students want to do something like this, we can also do this as well. And then there was also Gampopa at the Dakla monastery in Tibet, and he was a monastic. And so at the same time as he had the support of a monastic lifestyle, he still was able to practice. He was able to accomplish attain accomplishment and attain the ultimate results of his practice. And through this, he was able to attain the results. And part of that was that there were 800 great meditators who gathered around him. And so he also accomplished the perfect benefit for himself and for others. And he did this at a monastery, at the Dakla. He founded the Dakla monastery. And so we can see from this that if we want to have a simple, easy lifestyle, if we want to have a monastic lifestyle, or if we want to have the lifestyle of a prosperous householder, whichever of these we can do. There's no distinction. We can practice in any of these. And so if we are skilled in riding with constant and respectful exertion, the excellent stallion of the scriptural tradition of my forefathers, we can hope to be liberated from this single obstructing narrow passage. And so we will be able to come to a good result, and we will be able to free ourselves from any obstructions. So I think that's enough for this morning's session. Now please, let's do some meditation, and you better meditate well.
Zen